Well, happy Monday morning, Life Group leaders. Hopefully, you are enjoying this Labor Day with your friends and with your family. As you can tell, I am shooting this from my house today. So, with the boys out of school, I took advantage and staying home. Kelly just ran out and doing an errand with the boys. So, I took a quiet moment here to think about and talk about our life groups for this week from the message from yesterday. We're talking about parenting this week, and I laid in bed last night and I asked Kelly, I said, I felt like I may have been too hard yesterday with our message. It's such a passionate subject for me, being in student ministry for 10 years. I saw what great parenting can do in the life of a child, and how difficult it can be for a teenager when parents aren't engaged. And so really passionate, and so I felt like maybe I was a little too harsh yesterday, and if that's so, I want to apologize for that. I think the tone for our life groups this week should take on a huge tone of grace. More than anything else, I think our parents, as parents, we could all use some encouragement, because parenting, I think, we all feel like failures at times. We feel like we could do better, and if our kids mess up, then it's our fault, and we all make mistakes. We have one perfect Father, and His name is God, and there is no other, right? None of us have done this right. And so one of the things that I hope is that we in our life groups can help encourage one another, to remind each other that to where God's perfection is and where we fall short, that God's grace is going to cover that space in the middle. That's what we want. Where I fall short of God's perfect plan for me and my parenting, it's grace that's going to cover that middle. And so let's make that a part of our life groups this week, to really share that. Make it lots of encouragement this week. For those of you who have a mixture of older families and younger families, it would be a great time for those who are older to share their wisdom with some of the younger families who are still raising young kids. And you can share the good parts and the bad. I think it helps us younger families to know that sometimes there's hope, even when we mess things up, that God can cover that gap for us. One of the things that I heard most yesterday was so many families, so many grandparents who came up and said, I wish I would have heard this 30 years ago. Take advantage of that. Share those stories with some of the younger families in your group of how you would have gone and done things different. Encourage them about what you did do well, and let's make that a real time for the older to share and minister to the younger. I think that would just be a huge encouragement for those families. One of the biggest things for the younger families is actually beginning to put some application to this. One of the things that we talked about yesterday, or it's in your notes, is that if Psalm 78:7 was your goal in parenting, if we actually took that verse and made that our goal, we have to say, name one thing you would have to do different. And so I think that there's so much meat on that bone to share. What is it that we're going to do? One practical thing, if that's my goal, is to have my children trust in the Lord, to not forget His goodness, not forget His deeds, and to obey Him. If those are my goals, what's one thing I have to do this week to help implement that? Make your younger families, those still raising children, come up with something that they're going to do this week. And then last thing I would say, I think for this week, would be a huge time of prayer. If you have mostly older people in your group, then spend some time maybe praying for those kids that have wandered from the faith. I heard that many times yesterday, of families that wish their children were a part of the faith, or more active in their faith, and they're just not. And these older families, older parents, were worried about their children, their adult children. And so spend some time praying specifically for them. Again, many of our older families are playing that faith role in the life of their grandchildren. And so spend some time praying for them. And then if you've got younger families, and maybe if you've just got a few young families in there, I would encourage you, maybe even have some of the older people lay hands and pray over those young parents who are still trying to raise their kids. Again, I think the tone for our life groups this week ought to be a tone of with lots of grace, lots of encouragement, lots of prayer, because we all feel like failures in this. And so let's encourage one another. Let's spur one another on toward love and good deeds and lift each other up in prayer this week. I'm so grateful for you guys. Thank you for picking up the slack that I leave every Sunday and helping God's word to come to fruition in the lives of our people. Love you guys. Have a great Labor Day. We'll see you next week.